Greetings everyone, this is Rockman's Block Mansion with the Weekly Comic Book Roundup. And now we've gone through this week's Avengers books as well as Cosmic Marvel book. It's on to Spider-Man related titles and, well, others. Starting off with Venom, The End. Like I mentioned last week with Miles Morales, The End, Marvel did a series of minis back, I don't know, 15 plus years ago. Very usually tied to specific, each one tied to a specific character, being their ending. Okay. Well, the concept's been brought back this year with a series of one-shots. So, Venom: The End begins in the far-off future, where Venom is leading what's referred to as Team BioLife, and its glorious last stand against artificial superintelligences. We get narration explaining how it got there. First with explaining Venom himself Venom itself, as well as the Clintars, how the codexes, so on and so forth. Eventually, the Venom symbiote would keep Eddie Brock alive for a naturally long time, and as his body began to deteriorate, the symbiote would basically make your liver isn't working well. Let's make a symbiote version of the liver and fix that. But eventually, Eddie died. And while that was going on, there was an apocalyptic world genocide happening, as well as galaxy-wide extinction events. Basically, the doctrine of mutually assured extinction had prevented various space imperiums, the Shi'ar, the Kree, so on and so forth, from unleashing artificial superintelligences, or ASI, as weapons. Well, the Kree did just that. And then first the Shi'ar, then a dozen other powers freed their own machines out of all of the accelerating Kree ASI killware. And they wiped out all life in the galaxy. All biological life in the galaxy. Mainly to feed themselves. There was also in fact, there was even an ASI based on Tony Stark. So eventually, though, Venom decided to rebuild biological life. First, by trying to bring the Clintars back together, but yeah, they're not really team players. So, at least not when others of their own species are involved. So he dug through the codex, the various codices, and oh, hey, Jimmy Madrox, Multiple Man. So he Madrox himself, and started digging out others. Started rebuilding a race. Some example, utilizing powers in different manners, such as elixir to give light, to bring about life. Storm to terraform. Also other things like other life forms, like including various forms of bacteria, tardigrades, people such as Wolverine and Deadpool. But the ASIs had finally stopped fighting each other and combined into one force. And they were expanding. And they got to the chunk of the universe that Venom had and basically said, hey, yeah, we're expanding this way. You're in our way. We will digitally copy everyone, though, so no one's actually dead, just, no longer biological. And Venom was like, yeah, no, that's not going to work. So Venom discovered a means to basically tear himself open and use that as a mega weapon against the ASIs. Downside is that it was painful, and there was the possibility that every time he did it, he might end up literally tearing himself apart. So he had to come up with other ways to do things, and that included utilizing the super speed of Quicksilver, which was great, except for the fact that the hosts, that by passing that along to other hosts, their bodies aged out way too quickly. He also utilized time travel to basically bond with every single living being ever. Starting first with sentience, then moving on to animals, and then other forms of life. And eventually it came down to Venom's legions against the Godmind. So what he did was he, once again, tore himself open, but this time in a different manner, and was able to basically create a new universe. And all the codexes and all the DNA that he had stored within him went into this new universe, creating the greatest nature preserve ever seen. And it turns out that this whole thing's been narrated by one of the Stark ASIs, and he says, we haven't explored this universe he made, but as either way, at some point we probably will. But we're going to make sure it stays in play. It stays as is. We're not going to. It will not be destroyed and absorbed. This will be the memorial to Venom, and what he's done needs to be, memorialized. However, the Stark ASI does not understand the Venom symbiote's love for Eddie Brock. And that's where the issue ends. Next up, we've got SpiderMan, Black Cat Strikes, #1. Obviously set in the universe of the PlayStation 4 Spider-Man video game. So, Spidey's being Spidey. Looks like the Magia is planning a rather large art heist. So Spider-Man goes to stop it. However, while that's going on, the Black Cat comes in, goes after the one excruciating expensive painting that's been brought in, breaks it, and takes out a flash drive that was hidden within. And then escapes after scratching Misty into the barrier in front of the bulletproof barrier in front of the Ark. With a heart as well, as apparently Spider-Man and Felicia are exes. We get a flashback showing how they met in the first place. It was after Mary Jane and Peter broke up. But Spidey helped Black Cat escape from the Kingpin once upon a time. And while he suggested that the two of them, or that she basically, anonymously mail back the items to Kingpin, well, she refused. And also managed to, get Spidey to slam into a wall. He then tracked her down at a diamond exchange vault. The two have a bit of a chase. And the chase very clearly leads to fooling around. Most likely, at least partially still in costume. Cut back to now, the cops have arrived, and Spider-Man says, hey, bad guys are inside, I got to take care of. Lets MJ know, yeah, Black Cat came in. Took a flash drive from it was hidden within the frame of the Maria. Tracks her down though, and turns out there's another flash drive hidden this time in a statue, which Black Cat breaks the statue, pulls out the flash drive, and leaves. So Spider-Man asks her what's on the flash drive, which is a no. But she does, but she's stealing it because if she doesn't, Hammerhead, who seems to be angling to be the new boss of the Magia, will kill her son. And that's where the issue ends. With Spider-Man kind of freaking out that Black Cat, his ex-girlfriend, has a son. I'm already starting to guess that the possibilities here are that that son is not just Felicia's son, but also Peter's son. Moving on to Ruins of Ravencroft, Sabretooth. Where we left off in Ruins of Ravencroft, Carnage, we learned that an ancestor of Cletus Cassidy, I'll have to look up his name again, but Cortland Cassidy, is thought by many to have been the first patient of Ravencroft Asylum before the asylum itself actually existed. Anyway, there was also a null worshipping cult in the area back in the 17th century, early 18th century, as I recall. And in fact, Cortland ended up running off with that cult after murdering the ancestor, the founder of Ravencroft Asylum, a woman who had been, in fact, his wife. So, however, in the present, Mayor Wilson Fisk, Mr. Fantastic, Detective Misty Knight, and former Ravencroft security officer John Jameson, aka Manwolf, were exploring the ruins as some strange things had been found so far, including a journal which told the story of Cortland Cassidy, and also a subterranean hospital underneath the hospital, which did not seem like a place of healing, but rather a place of torture. So, further exploring the secret lab, a stuffed Flurkin is found, a somewhat dissected Wendigo, severed heads from multiple non-human species, notes on Frankenstein, a severed arm, a well-preserved severed arm, it should be added, and various other things, as well as a picture that Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, finds rather familiar. We continue on and find cells which have long decayed dead bodies within them, and finally a door simply marked unwanted. So the quartet go in, and there's something buried in the ground, something that ends up attacking the group. And so we flash back to the aftermath of Cortland Cassidy, seeing the stockade he was kept in degrade over time, over the span of a couple panels. And finally, we're in 1783. We see some of 1783 in New York, the Revolutionary War, and learning about some of the other strange occurrences that happened afterwards, such as the rise of a spirit cult of Shumagorath, the rise of a spirit of vengeance who bore a strange resemblance to the Headless Horseman of Sleepy Hollow, an attack by Tyrannus and the Deviants, Skrulls in 1891 who seemingly maybe replaced Teddy Roosevelt. And then there was Jonas Ravencroft, the founder of Ravencroft Asylum. And There were a few it took a little longer to build the asylum than thought. There were protesters who didn't want a mental health facility so near them. The construction accidentally caught on fire. A worker caved in the head of the foreman with a hammer, supposedly because apparently the demon Mephisto told him to. Then, an early patient was none other than the man claiming to be the Black Knight of Arthurian legend. You also had two doctors working with Ravencroft, Dr. Claudia Russell, and Dr. Nathaniel Essex. Also working with Essex was an orderly by the name of Victor Creed. And apparently there's a murderer who seems similar to Jack the Ripper, stalking the streets of New York. And potentially speaking, Creed and Essex have found their killer in the form of the man named Logan, who is being kept lobotomized, sedated, restrained, and so forth. And so Essex is experimenting with Wolverine's healing factor, and in fact removes part of one of Wolverine's forearms. However, later that night, Dr. Russell breaks him out. However, the escape attempt is stopped by Victor. Victor and Logan duke it out. Logan briefly stops by popping his claws underneath Victor's head, like so. However, Dr. Russell is more than she seems. In fact, the Knickerbocker killer, whose crimes Essex and Creed were trying to pin on Logan, is in fact Dr. Russell herself. And Dr. Russell is a werewolf, which leads me to believe that Dr. Russell is also an ancestor of Jack Russell, better known as Werewolf by Night. So Creed and Russell fight it out a bit until Dr. Essex comes in and gets Russell with a sedative. The next day, Russell's resignation is at Ravencroft's desk. However, it doesn't feel right to him, and he thinks that there's something a bit off with Dr. Essex, and that Dr. Russell suffered a terrible fate that somehow involved Dr. Essex. And he's absolutely right. Apparently she was dissected by him. So the things on the floor have crawled their way out, and they attack the quartet. So John Jameson man-wolfs up, and the four of them simply leave the unwanted room and shut the door behind them. And Misty realizes that there was a point where Mayor Fisk saw something he recognized and wasn't expecting. And that is where the issue ends. Get in there. Next up, we've got Jessica Jones, Blind Spot, #1. So, for those unaware, Jessica Jones is a private investigator in the Marvel Universe. She does have superpowers, and briefly was a costume superhero as a teenager, until a very, very horrid run-in she had with the Purple Man. She's a recovering alcoholic. She's married to Luke Cage, and has a daughter with him. She's been an Avenger. Not the biggest fan of a lot of superhero stuff, but some of it she just deals with because, well, that's what you do when you live in Marvel's New York. So, Blind Spot opens up at an unknown, it says time unknown, location unknown. Jessica is chained to a chair and wearing an old Miss Marvel costume. Explaining that, asking, couldn't they have at least gotten a jewel costume for her to wear since she was actually a superhero herself? Though, whoever's taking her explains that they can't find a jewel costume. Now we run things back a bit. Jessica is passing along information to her husband, to Luke. Hey, these are the things you need to pick up at the grocery store. I got to work today. While they're out of the park with their daughter, and Luke's paying more attention to the kids playing basketball. Later on, she arrives at her office and promptly finds a dead girl lying on the floor. And basically, as soon as she verifies that the girl is dead by checking her pulse, and is in fact in the midst of calling 911, the cops himself burst in and arrest Jessica. So eventually, after being made to sit in an interrogation room by herself for a while, Jessica's interrogated by a couple of by detectives Celino and McGill, and we learn that the victim was a young woman named Dia Sloan. Dia Sloan had hired Jessica 6 years previously. Basically, she thought her boyfriend she was trying to find a reason to leave her boyfriend and figured maybe if turned out her boyfriend was cheating on her, that would give her the oomph to, leave him. Then Jessica's lawyer, Matt Murdock, arrives, basically saying, either charge my client or release her. The cops, as they had nothing except Jessica being found except for the fact that the victim is someone that Jessica knew and was found in Jessica's office, they really don't have anything to definitively say Jessica Jones did this. So Jessica goes back to the office, basically to look into the file on Dia Sloan. And she does kind of lose track of time and conk out and wake up. And it's late at night now. However, someone sneaks up on her and shoots her. And that's where the issue ends, with Jessica shot in the head, lying on the floor. Obviously, that's not going to be the end of Jessica Jones. And that's it for this portion of the roundup. As always, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. Links to my Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, and PayPal can be found in the description box down below. This is Rock and Roll Spock signing off, saying, live long and rock hard.